Welcome to the Podium Pod, the Pick and Rolls National Basketball Podcast as we begin the road to Paris 2024. I'm Adam Webster, and I'm joined today by Pick and Roll feature writer Daniel Herborn. Daniel, we just watched the Opals and with an impressive victory over China in their first warm-up game. Firstly, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Good to be here. And as you say, yeah, very impressive result from the Opals. Obviously missing all the 7 WNBA players and coming up against a really strong Chinese side that had most of the side that's probably going to be there in Paris. And yeah, that China never really made inroads into the game. Very dominant performance by the Opals, and yeah, excellent win.
We might just be having a few audio issues as we begin this show, Daniel, on your end. You cut out a couple of times there, but what I got from that was that China did an extremely poor job at being able to defend Australia for all 4 quarters. Australia got pretty much everything they wanted, shooting 48% from 3, 49% from the field, and a couple of really good standout players, including Izzy Borlace, who we've had on the other Pick and Roll podcast property we have Unwrapped. She ended up with 19 points on 8 of 12 shooting and just seemed to be really aggressive the whole game, really comfortable with a place in the side, being able to score freely and at will, and really did everything she could to help her case in this contest as we head into Friday night's second game against China, and then the cut.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess to me, Izzy is basically a lock at this stage. It's so hard to leave her out of the team. She was so good on that tour of China, and again tonight, just the level of poise and confidence she has for a 19-year-old is pretty astounding. And yeah, just so much polish, just no hesitation firing that shot up. She shot really well tonight. Great energy. I think she's on the plane to Paris.
Another player that did herself no disservice tonight was Alice Kunik. She had 19 points as well, 8 of 10 shooting, filled the stat sheet, a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists and a steal as well, but was aggressive in the first half and really set the tone for the team early on in the first quarter and got them off to an extremely good start against a Chinese team ranked second in the world. So for Alice Kunik, she's also done herself a great favor heading into the roster decisions.
Absolutely. As you say, she was particularly impressive in the first quarter and really gave the Opals a momentum. I think she had 9 of our first 13 points, really aggressive, really used her speed, was just all over the place, shot really well. I think she's right on the edge of selection. I think there's probably 10 or 11 players that are locks, and I think Alice Kunik is one of the players that's probably kind of in that 12th, 13th range at the moment. But she did herself a massive favour tonight with the way she played. I think she's really making a strong case for selection.
There's a real contrast, I think, between last night's show where we talked about a Boomers team that sort of eked past China in the end after a really strong start, but the disparity in the rankings of the men's and women's Chinese teams, mean that you take these victories a little bit differently. For the Boomers, you expect them to move past that Chinese side with ease. But for the Opals, against another team in that top 5, top 10 range, you don't expect it to be this easy, but yet it was. I mean, do you take anything out of that from a Chinese perspective that they might not be quite as strong as their ranking right now?
I guess I'd wait to see the game on Friday. There's every chance they turn it around in a couple of days' time. And I guess in their defence, they were missing probably two starters that they'll take to Paris. It seemed like they tried quite a few different things and didn't really get close to the Opals at any stage. So I think that'll be a concern for them. Like Han Shu, tried really hard, but probably not super effective tonight. So I think there's probably a few concerns for China. But yeah, as I say, there's a lot of water under the bridge. There's another game in 2 days' time, and we know there can be pretty massive turnarounds in basketball and just a couple.
It is very early days in the lead up to Paris, and as journalists, we tend to jump to conclusions. Daniel, we're just having
a bit of a concern in the game for them tonight. Yeah, for sure.
I stepped on you a little bit there, but I was just saying we are jumping to conclusions a little bit because that's what we do as journalists. I think it's only right that we take the very best out of this performance. But you're right, we do need to be a little bit conservative with how we treat the Opals performance tonight. Also, while we're getting those audio issues sorted, the Podium Pod is brought to you by Team Feet. Team Feet offers premium athletic socks for modern teams, however they compete, with sweat wicking cotton, arch support, ventilation panels, and compression stitching. Team Feet socks are built to outperform. Whether your team is tiny or 1,000 strong, Team Feet unites and excites your players and supporters with their combination of quality and performance. Join basketball teams around Australia and the world by choosing Team Feet. For designs and worldwide delivery, head to teamfeet.com. So heading into the second game, Daniel, we've obviously had strong performances from quite a few of the players on this Opal squad. I want to ask you as well about Darcy Garvin. Not necessarily one that you would say is one of the very first picked on this team, given the WNBA talent that's potentially missing, but also did an extremely good job, stretched the floor really well, 15 points, three or four from three-point range, added 5 rebounds, a couple of steals in there as well. Genuine two-way player and one that you have to consider taking to Paris.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she was a bit of a quiet achiever tonight, just kind of got those 15 points in a quiet way. But yeah, she's every chance of going to Paris. I'd say, yeah, along with Alice Koenig, probably one of those players that's right on the bubble. Yeah, great length, great height. She gets rebounds. Teams can always use stretch fours. They can always use these types of shooters. She's been around the program for quite a while. She's got good familiarity with it. I think she was, along with Alice Koenig, probably one of the players that really made a strong case for going to the Olympics tonight.
And just on the flip side, I'm keen to hear from you who the players are on this squad that maybe need to step up on Friday night ahead of that second game and ahead of potentially further cuts to this Opals roster heading across to Spain for a couple more warm-up games over the coming weeks. It's fair to say they likely won't take all players that played today, as well as the players from the WNBA side of things as well. So who really needs to push for selection heading into the next overseas trip and the one prior to Paris?
Not sure that she's in doubt of missing Paris, but I think we'd all like to see Tess Madgen getting some more minutes. Obviously, she's missed a lot of basketball recently. Didn't get on the scorecard tonight. We know that she brings great intangibles to the team. So she's obviously the captain. Players rave about her leadership skills. But I think we'd all like to see her getting closer to her best, getting some rhythm, getting some reps, getting her feet into the paint, doing what she does best. So she's probably a player that I'd look to play a bigger role in these forthcoming games.
Well, we await Friday night with bated breath. It was a statement victory by Australia tonight over China, 94-66. To recap, Isabel Borlase with 19 points on 8 of 12 shooting to lead all scorers alongside Alice Koenig, who had 19 points on 8 of 10. For China, Wang Xiu had 21 points on 9 of 17 shooting to lead the scoring for the Chinese side, who will look to bounce back in a second game for Ballin 24. And just before we go, Daniel, it's so fantastic to see all basketball properties in Australia and at a national level showcased in the one arena in Melbourne. It's been exciting to see wheelchair basketball represented, 3-on-3 basketball represented as well. And we can't forget the Kangaroos, who are heading to Paris and look like a really strong side and a potential medal chance.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, great event, like absolute festival of basketball. I wish I was down there to be seeing it in person. Kangaroo is a really interesting team. Obviously, a relatively new form of the game. It's probably one where we haven't had a lot of, we've had some success at international level, but we'd like to have more. And that's a really athletic, young, energetic team. And really excited to see what they can do as well in Paris.
Should be really exciting. I think we've got potentially a couple of medal hopefuls in the Opals and the Kangaroos, the Boomers. It's too early to tell in terms of how they look heading into Paris, but we will be with you deep into Paris on the Podium Pod. We're planning on episodes throughout the rest of the warm-up games this week and in coming weeks internationally. We'll also be there, obviously, after every single game in Paris, Boomers and Opals straight away, live on YouTube, obviously going up on the podcast feed as well. So keep it tuned to the Podium Pod. Keep it tuned to the Pick and Roll. Thank you to Team Feed, our sponsor. And Daniel, thank you. And we'll see you again on the Podium Pod soon.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Look forward to it.
Good night, everyone.